what's going on, everybody. I have been a person that has been saying for a while now, like many of us, that we should be buying the card, not the grade. I also have been saying for a while, like many of us, that eye appeal is key. When you look at a card, you have to like what you're looking at, because the whole point of having these cards is to look at them. My question, though, is have we gotten carried away? I was at a show the other day, and there were two cards side by side. One was in an SGC 6, the other was an SGC 5. The 6 was significantly sharper on the corners, and it was a super clean card. The SGC 5 was perfectly centered, but clearly had some touches on the corners. The SGC 5, the asking price was higher than the SGC 6. Now, I don't think that just because a card has a higher grade that we should automatically think that it's a better card and should be more expensive. But the only thing that was better about this particular card for the 5 was the centering. Have we gotten carried away with the importance of centering? Remember, a lot of cards, the quality control for years and years and years was not that good. And as a result, what would happen is there were lots of off-center cards. There were lots of print marks on cards. The 50 and 51 Bowmans, for example, have tons and tons of print lines on them from when the cards were being produced. So how much should that take away from how much we want the card? Now, again, I do understand the card needing to look good. I'm all for that. I totally think if you have two cards side by side and one has good eye appeal and the other one has eye appeal, I understand the one with a little bit better eye appeal should probably be a little bit more expensive or a little bit more valuable. Most of us would want to pay up a little bit more for the one with the eye appeal. But I'm wondering if we've gotten carried away. I'm wondering if centering and eye appeal has become so important to so many people that the prices are too high compared to the cards that might be a little bit sharper, but might not have the same eye appeal. So, two things we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you some of the cards from my collection, my personal collection, some of which I think have eye appeal, but aren't fabulous as far as corners. And then I'm gonna show you some cards that I think are super sharp, but they're off center. I'm gonna talk about why I like each of them and why I decided to buy each of them. Then what I wanna do is I wanna take a look at some recent sales on eBay of cards in the same grade from the same company and the difference of what they're selling for when they're centered versus not centered, when they have high eye appeal versus not high eye appeal. The additional cost of the high eye appeal cards is, I think it's going to be more than you anticipate. So check this out. Let's look at some of my cards, then let's go ahead and compare some recent sale prices. And you're going to see how much of a premium people are putting on high eye appeal cards. All right, so these are a few cards from my collection. So here's a 1950 Larry Doby. And this card's a 2, but I think it has great eye appeal, has great color, great centering. The corners are decent. It's got a little wrinkle in it. I thought 2 was harsh, but really high eye appeal card. Another really high eye appeal card I have is this 58 Bart Star. It's a 5.5, perfectly centered, great color. The corners are soft. They're certainly not sharp, but I think it's a beautiful eye appeal card. Then I got my 1951 Monty Irvin rookie. Again, these corners are clearly touched up, but I just think it's super crisp, good centering,
Really cool having that card. And then here's another one. This is a second-year Jim Brown, 1959 Jim Brown. Really well centered, but the corners they're just not sharp. They're a little soft, but it got a 6. But another high eye appeal card. So I certainly understand the desire of high eye appeal. Now, the 1971 basketball cards. I've got a lot of early 70s basketball. This Lou Alcindor, this thing is as sharp as they come. But it's a little off center. And, I mean, literally it came out of a pack looking like that. Here's a Rick Barry rookie. And again, it's off center. I mean, I don't know what that might be. 65-35 maybe. But you look at that, and I mean, literally, that is how that card came out of a pack. Great color, great corners. It's just off center. You got this Bart Starr here, top to bottom. Centering is off enough where it's a little bit distracting, and that would make, a lot of people shy away from it. So these cards, because they're just a bit off center, I got them at a really good price. This Jerry West, again, this card is like pack fresh. I love this 71 top set for basketball. But again, the color is great.
All right, so those are some of my cards. That Rick Barry is super sharp. That Jerry West, I mean, those are like pack fresh cards. And that's from a set that is dramatically off center very regularly. It's hard to find a centered one. But to me, when I look at those cards, I'm like, literally they could have been pulled straight from a pack, and they're getting 6s or 7s. And they're beautiful cards. The color is beautiful. They're just off center. They didn't bother me. And then there were other cards like that 58 Bart Starr, for example. I mean, I love the eye appeal of that card, and the fact that they have a touch on the corners does not bother me one bit. So I definitely see both sides of it. The part I'm having trouble with right now is the dramatic difference in prices of the cards that are centered that have the high eye appeal. Look at some of these recent eBay sales and look at how much more the high eye appeal cards are selling for over the ones that have centering issues. Check these out.
All right, so we've got this Johnny Unitas rookie card. Now, which of these two would you rather have? Hey, look at them. The one on the right has a little bit of a rough cut on the right, and the one on the right is not as well centered. Color's pretty deep color. I think most people would say they prefer the one on the left. But, it's obviously up to each of us. So these cards got the same grade, but sold for significantly different prices. So there's the one on the left. Now look at that sale price. And, that's a decent sale price, but look at how much cheaper the one on the right is. Again, same grade, both with SGC. The main difference is the centering, and it's a 25% discount. It is 25% less than the one on the left. And the big difference is the centering. So here we've got a couple of Wilt Chamberlain's 1972 Wilt Chamberlain cards. I've got one of these in my collection. Mine's a 6. These are both 8s. Now the one on the right is pretty much perfectly centered. The one on the left is slightly off center. But the one on the left, those corners are pretty much perfect. The one on the right has good corners too. So look at the price of the one that's a little off center. It might be 60-40, 65-35, something like that, versus 50-50 on the right. And look at how much more the one on the right sold for just because the centering is just a pinch better. It's 35% cheaper to buy the one on the left that's just a pinch off center. And on an expensive card, that's a lot of money. All right, here are a couple of Sandy Koufax rookies. So To me, the one on the left has better color. I think the corners are maybe better on the left. The one on the right has a couple little print marks up there between the portrait and the action shot there. But the one on the right is definitely better centering. So the centering being better on the right, but most of the rest being better on the left. So the one on the left sold for $16.50. Okay? And these are pretty decent, pretty decent cards. Look at how much more the one on the right sold for. And the only thing it's really better at is, the centering. It's got a little bit better eye appeal. It's 37% less for the one on the left. I mean, we're talking about like almost $1,000. Is the centering worth $1,000 to you? So we got a couple of 53 satchel pages. Now the one on the left has better color, I think, is really well centered. The one on the right, I think, has slightly better corners, but it's not as well centered and the color is not quite as rich. So again, the one on the left sold for $4,400. Now remember, these are the same grade. The only real difference is the eye appeal. The one on the right sold for $2,680. I mean, $1,700 more dollars for the better centering. The one on the right was 40% less. And we were talking about a $4,000 card. 40% is a ton of money. Last example, we've got a 1965 Mickey Mantle. Now, the one on the left is really well centered all the way around. The one on the right, centered left to right, pretty good, but top to bottom, it's definitely off. It's definitely got a pretty thin top border. Other than that, though, again, corners are similar. Color is similar. But the one on the left sold for $1,425. And these are real sales in the last, couple of months, all of these. Some of these sales were just a couple of days apart. But the one on the right is $800. So you go up over $600 for the one on the left just because the centering top to bottom is a little bit better. So it's a 44% discount to get the one on the right. Same grade. It's just slightly lower eye appeal. Now, again, I think eye appeal is important, and I think we should be buying the card, not the grade, 100%. But is a card on the right worth 44% less than the card on the left? I think we're getting maybe carried away. What do you guys think about this? Am I missing something? Are the better eye appeals really worth that much more? Let me know what you think.